Hi, I'm your host, Hayley Burns, and welcome to Birthing Beyond 35, where each and every week my aim is to share stories from all over, directly from mums who have had healthy pregnancies and babies over 35. And in this week's episode, I speak with Poonam Gole, a fertility mindset coach. So what's a fertility mindset coach, you say? Well, just as the name suggests, it's coaching. Poonam aims to help you get in a better frame of mind with the aim of supporting you throughout your fertility journey to overcome fear and gain confidence to achieve your motherhood dream. After struggling with her own fertility where she endured a miscarriage, Poonam turned to IVF. And she really leaned into the belief that her ability to become a mother was attainable. And now at 36, she's pregnant again with her second, which she conceived naturally. You can follow her at Fertility Mindset Coach, and I've linked her information in this episode's description. This episode is a great reminder about just how much of an impact our mind can play on just everyday life. I hope you enjoy. Joining me now is Poonam Gole. Poonam, thank you so much for talking to me. I understand you're in Canada. Is that correct?
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me, Haley.
I'm very excited to talk to you. Poonam is a fertility mindset coach doing something a little different today. So before we even get into today's topics, tell the listeners a little bit about what it is you do.
Sure. So I'm a trained professional mindset coach. What that means is we partner with our clients to help them create the life that they desire, right? So we use evidence-based tools and techniques to help them identify what their behavioral patterns are, and how they can make better choices that serve them. In coaching, we believe that the client has all the answers. All we are doing is helping them navigate towards those answers, right? So the best analogy I like to give is that, let's say you are injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you went through a surgery, you go to a physiotherapist to get yourself treated. That's something that a therapist would do for your mind, right? If you went through some trauma, something that has happened in the past and you're trying to heal out of it, that's what you'll go to a therapist. You'll go to a mindset coach when you are training for a marathon, right? When you're training for a marathon, you go to a personal trainer, a physical trainer, right? That's what a mindset coach will do for your mind. And, with the fertility journey, it's always a marathon.
Yeah.
So, mental health is extremely important in this journey. And that's what I realized through my own journey. And, that's what inspired me to become a fertility mindset coach.
Well, we're going to get into all of that today. So how long ago did you meet your partner? And tell me about your journey to trying to conceive.
So we just celebrated our 9-year anniversary.
Nice, beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So nice.
1 more year to go for a milestone.
Look, in this day and age, every year is a milestone.
Yep. So we met in 2013. So before we even thought about having kids, we were almost 5 years. We knew each other. Like we were married for 4 years before that. And honestly, that was never like we had talked in detail about this, before we got married. And I think that's an important conversation to have with your partner. And kids was never a deal breaker, like both of us were. I didn't want kids until I turned 31. So in my mind, and even in his mind, it was never like a priority. But once I was 31, that desire slowly came up. And then it became a strong desire, right? So many women think that, it's always, that desire is always there. That's not really the case. You with time, you evolve. With time, your priorities change, and it's okay to want kids later in life.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're made to feel like you're a bit of a robot or not very empathetic if you're not overly maternal at say 25
Yeah,
or 30. And
yeah,
sometimes people are just like, yeah, figuring out what they want to do with their lives. And,
absolutely.
again, those things can come later in life, like you say. Okay, so you tell us about that fertility journey. Did you have trouble falling pregnant?
Yeah, so it was a bit of an up and down situation. We started trying, and actually, we immediately fell pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
like within 2 months of trying.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it led to a miscarriage at like week 8 or 9.
I'm sorry.
And that experience was, thank you, very devastating, for both of us. And men tend to hide this a lot. They don't really
Mm-hmm.
discuss this topic, which needs to change. But even from women, this topic is like a taboo topic. It's a very lonely
Mm-hmm.
journey. Nobody's talking about this. Many women just go through it alone, like not even discussing this with anyone.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty traumatic experience. And um, you hear comments like, it's good that it happened early, or oh, that was God's plan, that's the best thing,
Mm.
or at least you can get pregnant. And that is
Yeah.
not helpful statements. Like, those are such
Mm-hmm.
invalidating statements for a person who is going through that trauma. um so I went through all that, and that actually made me realize that mental health is so extremely neglected in this phase, in
1000%.
yeah. So that we still waited for a year to seek medical help.
Mm-hmm.
And still, like, when we were not able to conceive, then we went to a fertility clinic, and then everything else followed.
Okay, so after your miscarriage, how long did you wait till you kind of thought, should we start trying again, or should we take some time out? What was your kind of thought process there?
Yeah, it took a while, and I actually went through, like, I had panic attacks for a while after that.
Yeah. Tell me about
And
those. Were
which is,
you was the
yeah.
panic attacks? Was that just fear that it's going to happen again, or fear that I'm not going to be able to have a baby? Like, what were you panicking, and what was that anxiety about?
Honestly, the panic attacks came, I think it was more of my hormones kind of settling back
Mm-hmm.
to normal, because it was like, it was not related to pregnancy at all. Like, they would just come, like, if I'm late to the office, I would have a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was completely irrelevant. But it took a while for us to heal,
Yeah.
through that phase. And once we came to terms, okay, and the people always also say, oh, after a miscarriage you'll conceive
Yeah,
faster,
I've
it
heard
will
that
be
as
like,
well. I've even spoken to women on this podcast, and that has happened. That to them, that's what's happened to them.
yeah. But that's the thing, like, your journey is unique,
Mm-hmm.
so comparison is another thing which really pulls us down on this journey. And it's good to look for evidence that supports you, but comparison in itself is not healthy at all.
No, comparison's a
So
disaster. Okay, so what was that first meeting like with the doctor that you went and met with to talk about your fertility struggles?
yeah, thankfully my fertility clinic, all the doctors, all the caregivers that I've had during this process have been extremely supportive. And I've never had this. I'm a overweight person. I've been since high school, and that also comes up during when you go to a fertility clinic. But it never
Mm-hmm.
did. Like, my all my doctors were very supportive. And so my diagnosis was that I have very low AMH, which was an
Mm-hmm.
indicator of very low ovarian reserves. And that was a big blow, that was a bit of a shock. And it took me time to really process that. And, it shattered it shattered my confidence.
Oh, I bet.
I
Yeah.
never thought that it will be, such a long and difficult journey, but it was. And this is actually a story of many South Asian women, because we are told that genetically our ovaries age faster. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if many people know this,
No, I didn't know
but
that. Tell me. Tell
that's
us.
what we are told. Yeah. Like South Asian, just, genetically, it's
Mm-hmm.
like we age faster. So our
Huh.
ovaries age faster. So it's not downhill after 35, it's actually
Mm-hmm.
downhill after 30. You
Interesting.
know?
And there's facts
Yeah.
to that
So
support this
yeah.
study?
I mean, there are facts to support. There are statistics
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere,
Okay.
but that's another thing I advocate is that stop focusing on statistics. Stop focusing on, because your journey is your journey. You are not a
Yeah,
statistic. Like, you are not a number,
I know.
right? And if this is something you desire, something you want to go after, there are always solutions. And coaching is very solution focused. So we always look ahead. We always, um, try to find solutions to what you desire, what you want to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
rather than focusing on the obstacles.
You had your meeting with that doctor. What was the first kind of
Mhm.
steps that came out of that?
We actually went through a couple of treatments with them, and they did not rush me into anything, which was
Mm-hmm.
great. And that's what I was looking for. Like, your fertility team needs to be supportive. They need to be on your team,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of against you. So thankfully, I had that. We went through a couple of IUIs before trying IVF. And then we went for IVF. The first IVF failed.
Sorry to interrupt. Explain to me what an IUI is again. Yeah, because so many people are like so
Yeah.
familiar with IVF, and so many people just are like, "What's the
Yeah.
IUI?" So I'd love it if you could just like tell me about the IUI first.
So many people who go for IVF first, they kind of go through IUI if there is no other indication that they absolutely need IVF. So IUI is basically intrauterine insemination.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, your eggs are not retrieved, nothing like that. It's just like timed sperm injection
Mm-hmm.
into your uterus, basically, to help increase the chances of conceiving.
Mm-hmm.
So you're put on medications, and they know exactly, when you're gonna ovulate, and that's when you do the insemination. So
Okay.
basically increasing the chances. So we did try a couple of those. That didn't work. Then we tried our first IVF. That didn't work. So we went for our second IVF.
Okay. So by my
Yeah.
count, you've done 2 cycles of IUI, then you've tried an IVF cycle, correct? So you've tried,
No,
three.
5 cycles of
Oh wow.
IUI.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So okay. So yeah, 5 months then, 5, 6 months of trying before
Yeah,
you.
we took breaks in between,
Okay.
because it was so mentally taxing, all these
Oh, I
all these
bet.
things. And we did this like in smack in the middle of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
we did take breaks in between.
All of the great things all at the same
Uh,
time.
oh
Gosh.
man, with the mask on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
How did your
so yeah,
husband? Oh, sorry. I assume he's your husband, but how did
mhm.
your partner deal with
Yes,
all of
yes,
this?
he's my husband. He was very supportive throughout. I know that it was, mentally difficult for him as well. And, we kind of had our communication very clear. So there was, I remember a point where we were, our first IVF had failed, and we were talking to, so my husband's aunt
Mm-hmm.
owns a IVF clinic. Like, she's a
Nice.
fertility specialist and has a
That
IVF clinic
helps.
in back in India,
Okay.
right? So, but we were in New York at this point when we were going through these treatments. So we kind of, had like a second opinion person. So we were
That's,
talking to her,
yeah,
and she
wonderful.
brought up a conversation about egg donors, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
my first IVF had failed. We had no follicles generated in that
Mm-hmm.
IVF. So she was like, maybe this is a conversation. And I remember that, like, it was, of course, shocking, disappointing, all those feelings. And we were in Central Park, we're just walking through Central Park and having this conversation about egg donors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and both me and my husband, we have worked through our communication, which is extremely important, to have that communication with your partner, to really express what you really feel about the situation and take decisions that work for both of you. So that is something, which kind of sailed us through and still sails us through parenthood, because
Yeah.
that is extremely important here too. But yeah, so that's the thing. Like, men don't really express much, but it is very important for them to have these conversations as well.
1000%. Yeah. So let's get through the IVF, your struggles and getting that first positive result?
Yeah, so through my second IVF, we did a mini IVF, which kind of worked for me.
You did a what, sorry?
Now, a mini IVF, which basically means you're put on less medication for stimulating the follicle generation, because anyways, because I had low ovarian reserves and my body didn't really respond well to heavy medication.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were trying to now do is just stimulate the follicles that are anyways going to
Mm-hmm.
be there for this cycle, right? So less quantity, but trying to get the quality. Yeah, I was just focusing on one thing, like you just need one,
Yeah.
because at this
1,000%.
point it wasn't about, yeah. So that was my mantra throughout the process, like you just need one.
Mm-hmm.
And we had two follicles retrieved at the end of the cycle. Both turned into embryos. One was mosaic, one was normal, and we implanted, like we did the embryo transfer, and that one stuck. And he's
Amazing.
almost my 2-year-old son now.
That's so
So,
special.
yeah, I mean, even through the transfer, because I had worked on my mindset and, the whole coaching, like I had hired coaches throughout my process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, a coach cannot coach. Like I can't coach myself.
Oh, of course. Oh, 1,000%.
Still human,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Doctor can't operate on themselves. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that. So, all my affirmations, all the, grounding techniques, that experience I'll never forget. Like, my transfer, like the embryo transfer
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like it honestly, it felt like all the nurses and the doctors were like angels, bringing
Mm.
me my miracle. And to be there to witness that,
Yeah. Were you like manifesting this?
yeah.
Would you wake up every day and just be like, see these things happening, visualizing them, manifesting, thinking this is it? We explain to me about your daily kind of mantras, etc.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought this up, because with my vision meditation, what I do is imagine 10, 15 years ahead,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening. Right. I don't like, I never focused on, okay, how my IVF transfer is going, not that particular thing, right? What is my big vision? What does my life look like? And I want to put this out there, like be very specific of what you ask from the universe,
Yeah.
right? Imagine this very specifically. Like, how many kids you have, where are you, imagine a scene in your house, what's going on, what clothes you're wearing, how do you look, how do your kids look, like, everything. But I always did this 10, 15 years forward, so that you can focus on the big picture, because we
Yeah.
get caught up in this nitty gritty small little steps,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just focus on the how. What we need to focus on is the what do you
What
want,
is the end
what
result?
do you desire, right? So and then just be present. So with the embryo transfer, that's what I was just present in the moment to
Mm-hmm.
just witness this miracle, right? The embryo being dropped, in my uterus. It's just magical. Like when you imagine, like when you really look at it from that point of view, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing to actually watch that,
It's so
right? It's
cool.
magical. So just being extremely present in that moment, so that you can live that moment fully, right? Instead of worrying about what will happen. Oh, will this work? Will this not work? If it
Mm.
doesn't work, then what? Right? Like that's what our mind tries to focus on. But once you do the grounding, you are rooted in the present moment, and I think that's the best gift you can give to yourself.
Love that. So, tell me about your pregnancy. How was your first trimester?
Mm. Yeah. So we actually moved to Canada during my first trimester.
Okay,
So
so
that was
during
a
the
huge,
was the pandemic
yeah.
still going at this point, or a little bit better? Is that
Yeah.
why
So
you
this was
moved?
this was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
This was 2021 around July. Like we had to wait for the pandemic to subside actually to move.
Yeah.
We had planned to move earlier, but we couldn't. So we moved from New York to Canada. And so that was a huge transition during that time. And this is again something that we kind of have an illusion about, that, oh, once we get pregnant or once we have the baby, like that is it, right? Like that's the destination. We are there. We have arrived,
Yeah.
right? And that is so not the case because
Hasn't even
my
started
sister,
yet.
yeah, oh my God, you get me.
Yeah, currently going through
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
My sister kind of said this to me, and I've kind of hooked on this statement. It's like motherhood has no destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the journey, right? And the journey has just begun once you get pregnant.
Yeah.
So all the anxiety, if you do not work on your mindset, all the anxiety, all the self-doubt, all of that, um, fear of losing control, all that stuff just carries forward. You just carry that, in your next phase,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I mean, my past experiences did weigh on me, but working on my mindset helped me get through it. Because
So
the
what would
first trimester,
so what would happen?
I was
Yeah.
nervous.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
sorry,
was
sorry.
nervous because I had my previous miscarriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was nervous.
So
Plus,
how would you handle it when those thoughts would creep into your mind?
yeah, so I had developed a technique, and I share this with my clients too, of creating my own affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the messages you tell yourself are the most powerful ones.
Mm-hmm.
So you could read an affirmation and not really relate to it, but when it's your own voice, when
Yeah.
it's your own inner voice, you are going to listen to it. So that is what I used to do, create my own affirmations and go through it. I actually went through a kind of traumatic experience when we moved to Canada. We landed and I realized that I was bleeding. So we
Oh
rushed to the
no.
ER. Like that was my first day.
Yeah.
We rushed to the ER, almost 5 hours we spent there. Completely new country. Like we didn't
Yeah.
even have, like we were staying at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was super nerve-wracking. Everything was fine. Thankfully, it was a subchorionic hemorrhage, which
Okay.
is common for IVF cases. A lot of people don't know about this, so that is something, piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, everything was fine. And the next day, I woke up and I literally like took a notepad, and all these thoughts just came pouring out, and
Yeah.
each of these thoughts was an affirmation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The universe has your back, believe in your miracle, believe in its life force, stuff like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything just came out. um and I still have like a picture of it you can share with your audience if
Good.
you want, but
Yeah,
like
love to.
these are the affirmations that are deeply
Rooted in
ingrained.
you. Yeah.
So that is how I kind of sailed through my first trimester and pregnancy and childbirth actually.
Okay, so one thing I'll ask
Yeah.
you is not everybody comes from a place of believing, manifestations or
Mhm.
mantras or,
Right.
it's some people are just like, oh, I can't look in the mirror or I can't write down, today will be a great day and believe
Mm.
it, for example. What would you say to
Mhm.
people who find it hard to kind of think in that mindset, try to be positive or believe in themselves? What's kind of like the first step?
So I think that happens when you have, you are kind of engrossed in your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So you start believing that you are your thoughts and your emotions, which you are not, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are much more than that. So it is important to look in what is stopping you from believing in yourself. Okay, you don't believe in the the higher power, universe, God, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But believing in yourself, believing in your ability to face a challenge or to respond and not to react is something that you can develop.
And
That is something
yeah.
you can practice,
And it's
you
definitely
know.
it is it's brain training, like you say, like not
Absolutely.
reacting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you are not your thoughts. It's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, that is it's literally like you
Yeah.
say, it's coaching, it's practicing, it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
And mindset work is a lifelong work,
Mm-hmm.
it's not you did it once and you're dead, like that
Yeah,
doesn't happen.
doesn't
Like
take a
I
week.
still
You don't do one
practice it. Yeah,
meditation
yeah.
class
And
and you're fixed.
it's okay if you don't like doing meditation, that
Yeah,
is okay. It's just you find your own way
yeah.
of developing this skill because it's a skill
Mm-hmm.
like any other skill, right? It's a skill that can be developed. It's not something you're just born with.
Yeah. So let's go through your childbirth experience. So how, tell me about that point you got to, after 9 months. of welcoming your child into the world.
Yeah, so another crazy story, but I was like my kid took his own sweet time. I was
Yeah.
almost 41 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be induced. But we all honestly think that he was waiting for his grandma. So it was still, pandemic
Sweet.
going on, only one support person allowed in the
Yeah.
delivery room and all that. And my mom was stuck in India because of her visa situation
Oh
and she
no.
couldn't come to Canada. She literally reached the day before my son was born.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
so yeah, I feel like he was just waiting for her
Yeah.
to arrive. But not like after that it was kind of smooth sailing in terms of the delivery, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I took the epidural. I actually had um like tremors, like I was shaking because I
Yeah.
was cold,
Uh-huh.
but
I had
later I
that.
found out it's because of the hormones. Yeah, oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God,
like
it's
the
like
worst. And they're like, bite your tongue or
it's
like,
the worst.
push your tongue
Yeah,
to the roof of your mouth and that will
yeah,
stop you like shaking. I
same.
was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally at one point I told my husband to just pin me down because I
Yeah.
couldn't stop shaking.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like you're
Yeah,
cold. You're just exhausted and all the hormones and all the
yeah,
drugs are just, yeah, you're like literally, there's nothing left of you physically.
yeah. I mean, at the last in the last 2 hours, I think I was suggested to have a C-section, but I was like, like
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of like back and forth
Mm-hmm.
on that because I didn't have a lot of help here, so I had to be on my feet
Yep.
pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I and my sister was rooting for. She's like, no, you can do it, you can do it, go for
Mm-hmm.
it. Like you've already taken the epidural, you can do it. Like
Yeah.
and then I did the peanut
The peanut ball.
ball.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of helped. And like after that, it was quick. But
What's
yeah,
quick,
I
quick?
mean,
Explain to me.
again,
What's quick, quick?
no. So then after that, like I got fully dilated, and
Okay,
I was able to
awesome.
push.
Oh, amazing.
The nurses were awesome. They were like, "Our shift gets over at 7:30. We want to see the face of your baby
That's
before
so
that."
fun. Yeah, I will say,
And they
like,
were so encouraging.
I will say
Yeah.
from my own experience and other people's experiences that the labor and delivery nurses and staff are always just like
Yeah.
ridiculously amazing, like
Oh
such
my God.
incredible
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All nurses.
Yeah.
Hats off to them. All
Yes, correct.
nurses.
All. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, again, it's a matter of perspective, right? I could have seen all this as a traumatic experience,
Hmm.
or I can see this as my hero story. And if you're not a hero in your own story, then like whose life are you living, right?
Exactly. You
Like
have to be your own cheerleader. I say it
yourself.
to myself. I'm going to tell my daughter
Absolutely.
that. Like nobody else is going to be
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
you're awesome.
Yeah.
You have to do that for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
So how was your
You gotta
experience?
advocate for
Sorry.
yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to, fight for yourself and, go for what you want. So that's how I see that labor and delivery story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that experience impact you deciding if you want to have a second child? Because you're obviously now 36, correct?
Yes.
Almost 36. So tell me about,
Yep.
are you interested in pursuing a second child? Are you accepting
Yeah.
one? What are your thoughts right now?
So I always imagined, whenever I imagined kids, right? Initially, I never like wanted kids, but then when I started imagining having kids, I was like, either it's zero or it's two.
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know so I always wanted two kids, and yes, the struggle with infertility, all the traumatic experiences, everything we went through did kind of set me back a little bit, where I was like, you know what, I don't think, like, I'm not prepared, maybe I don't think, you
Hmm.
get that nerves. But I feel I just needed time to heal, to let myself be, let myself heal, and then ask that question to myself, like,
Hmm.
what do you want to do next? And honestly, I can now declare it on this podcast. I never thought that it would be this easy, but it happened. And I am pregnant with my second kid right now.
Congratulations.
Thank
So it
you.
happened
I
naturally?
just It did. And I mean, I feel extremely grateful, thankful
Happy
to the
for you.
universe for,
Yeah.
making my vision come true. And yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like, we can, and this is me who was diagnosed of like low ovarian reserve at the
Mm-hmm.
age of 31, went through all this, IVFs and everything, and now at the age of 36, I
Pregnant
get
naturally.
pregnant
Yeah. I mean,
just
I've
like
heard
that.
it from women I've spoken to, experienced it myself, but just
Yeah.
it's a small little window of like, hey, this is your ovarian reserve, but all it takes is
Mm-hmm.
one. All it takes is one.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing. There is no timeline to the universe. Like we create this checklist for life.
Correct.
Universe doesn't. So I think
Society has a
yeah,
checklist,
yeah,
obviously. Um,
absolutely. So
yeah.
now, like, I'm just preparing for that and going ahead. But that's the thing. Like the message I want to put out is focus on your own story, focus on what helps you get through your difficulties, not comparing yourself to others, not, because our mind is trained to focus on the negative.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we have to train it back to really step back and look at, the evidence that is in front of us. Like there are so many women now who are getting in, pregnant at the age of 35, 40, 45,
Yeah.
and it's just the society keeps telling us one story. We need to figure out what we need to believe in.
Yeah.
Find evidence that supports your story. That's what I would tell.
Yeah. Okay, so let's finish on some key things that you'd love some women to be, I guess, more mindful of, who are perhaps facing challenges or are thinking they might not be able to get pregnant, late 30s, early 40s.
I think one of the most, like the biggest fear that I hear from women in their 30s and 40s, because that's kind of my client base,
Mm-hmm.
is that time is running out. We
Mm.
are too late. This
Mm-hmm.
is not going to happen for us now,
Yeah.
right? And there is so much guilt that, oh, I should have tried before, in the past. So much like less confidence in yourself, so much self-doubt there. And then that leads to similar actions, right? You're not advocating for yourself. You're not really, you're just giving up your power. And that I feel is the biggest pain point which needs to be addressed for this cohort of women. I kind of have I create, because this was such a common thing that came across, I kind of created a small little post on my Instagram channel. It's at Fertility Mindset Coach,
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy to
Yeah, I'll
remember.
link it all.
um and it's pinned to my Instagram channel, and that basically talks about this particular thought and what are the corresponding thoughts, emotions, and actions that happen, and how can you reframe those. So I think that is something that could benefit a lot of women going through this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to step back and realize that you are not your thoughts and emotions. You are not your circumstances, not your situations. You are not statistics. You are not a number, right? You are absolutely responsible for how you respond to the circumstances around you.
Correct.
So it's important to develop that strong growth mindset to be able to respond in a way that serves you, so that you're not wasting your own time. You're taking the action that, you know, takes you forward instead of being frozen, in time,
Yeah.
basically. And that's the message, right? Because I honestly believe that women who have the strong mindset, mothers with strong mindset, raise kids with a strong mindset. And I think this world does need that,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's the bigger picture that you
I
should focus on.
Yeah, I tell my daughter every day. There's one thing I always tell her. I'm like, you are capable of anything. That's just the one thing I say to her. I don't say, oh, you're so cute or you're blah blah. I always say like, you are so capable, and it's something I try and tell her every day because I want her to be the strongest woman when she grows up. Yeah, and I guess just lastly, how has it felt? I guess now being advanced maternal age and going through this pregnancy, even though it is very early,
Wow.
obviously.
I honestly never like thought about it like that.
Love.
And as I said, thankfully my caregivers never made me feel that way.
Good.
And that's again something that we need to advocate for, as women. Um, Seek a medical team that is on your team, right? Like
Yes.
that is
Yeah.
supportive. But thankfully, I never faced that situation, and I never thought of it that way. And honestly, I believe it's having kids at a later age, you have more perspective. You are more patient. I think all the ladies who are 35 and older would believe like you are less worried about what people think about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're more focused on the joys of life and really enriching your life. So I think it favors the way you bring up your kids. So, I mean, that's fine if you're older and having kids. There are benefits to it.
I agree. Poonam, you're an incredible guest. I'm very excited to share your
Yeah.
story and share all these positive things to our listeners. And yeah, keep in touch and very look forward to following your second pregnancy journey.
If anybody is looking to follow me you can follow me on Instagram at Fertility Mindset Coach. And my website is coachpoonam.com. So
Love. I'm
that's
definitely
where
going
you can
to be,
find me.
yeah, I'll be linking all of that stuff. Thank you so much. I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Thank you so much, Haley. Take care.